Hi everyone, it's me. So I've moved literally like 2 feet. I know it's over there, but I just don't want to today. So I'm over here. Welcome to my couch. This week I wanted to talk to you guys about Copenhagen. I just got back and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to, I hope that I already did, post a video of just like clips and pictures and things, but I wanted to actually do like details, like what to eat, hotels, attractions, transportation, all that kind of stuff. So I have tons of information. I've written it all down here. Hopefully I don't forget anything, but let's just try to get through all of this. So let's go. First off, some general background information. Copenhagen is in Denmark. So please don't get confused. Sort of a week before my trip, my boyfriend was like, I can't believe we're going to Norway. And I was like, yeah, I can't either, because we're not going to Norway. It's in Denmark. Please, you're going to Denmark. It is part of the EU, so customs is basically nothing if you're coming from another EU country. It was like, I got a stamp, and that was it. And then although they are part of the EU, they use their own currency, which I'll talk about money in its own section, but just be aware you need to actually bring the Danish krone, the Danish currency. Don't bring euros because it's pointless. So first off, I want to talk to you about Copenhagen Card. Or getting a Copenhagen card is what I meant to say. Don't know if that will zoom in. But it's basically a city card. So you can get them in a lot of major cities. These ones are sold in allotment of hours. So what you can do is online before your trip, you can book and pay for them, which is nice and convenient. And then when you land in Copenhagen and you come through like security, customs, you get your bags, you sort of enter into the big arrivals hall. There's a information desk where you just pick these up. And then there's like this little strip at the bottom that it says valid from. So you literally just write in the date and the time. And then you can use these cards right away. What's great about them is you get all transportation included. So metro, buses, trains. You don't have to buy any tickets. You just show your card and you can get on any line, any station within Copenhagen, which is so convenient because I can't speak Danish and I can't read Danish. So it just takes a load off not having to try and buy tickets. It's easy. What I also love, and probably the main reason I got these, were you get entrance to about 75 different attractions. So what I tried to do was all the things that we were going to see, I tried to make sure they were included in the card. So literally all we had to pay for was food when we were actually in the city. So if you are going to Copenhagen, I definitely would recommend looking into these to see if they're worthwhile for the kind of trip that you want. Next up is food. I love food, but I'm not really a foodie. I mean, I'll pretty much eat anything. So with food, that's kind of where I try to save the most money on my trip. So I basically, okay, this was my setup. I didn't get breakfast at the hotel because it was going to be 20 pounds a person a day. Like, I'm sorry, 20 pounds a person a day for breakfast is way too much. So scrap that, I didn't do that. Instead, I brought a box of breakfast cereal bars, basically. And when I was there, I bought a thing of apple juice, like from a grocery store. So in the morning, I'd have my apple juice and I'd have my like breakfast bar thingy, and that was like enough. That's really all I need. I was full for like a couple hours. And then for lunch, we would stop at a grocery store along the way, like during the day, and just pick up like bits and pieces and sandwiches and things and put them in our backpack. So then whenever you got, a little peckish, you could just rummage around in the backpack and get lunch. I found food in Copenhagen was quite expensive. So we really did try to save as much money as we could, but we still would have some sort of like sit down dinner, which was nice. And the food, I mean, there is all kinds of food. At one point we had Korean, I had Italian, we had just regular sandwiches and stuff. There's fish, there's seafood. There is so much to choose from, so you don't have to worry about being really restricted in what you eat. There is so much food. Also, the weather. I checked BBC weather because that's kind of like my go-to thing, and it said Copenhagen was going to be between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius. But I know that 20 degrees in England feels really different than 20 degrees in Canada, which probably is going to feel quite different to 20 degrees in Copenhagen. So I really wasn't sure what to wear, but for my trip, we were there for, again, 3.5 days, 4 days, in August, mid-August. I wore jeans every day, comfortable shoes, and then either like a t-shirt or maybe like a thin long sleeve. I always brought my umbrella because sometimes it could start raining, like just rain really quickly and then go away. And I always brought my leather jacket. It really helped with some of the wind because obviously you're by the water, so sometimes the wind can be quite strong. And it also helped if it just started to spit, couldn't be bothered with my umbrella, just put my coat on. So really just dress in layers and light. Obviously in the winter I'm sure it can be quite bitter, so just check before you go on your trip what you should wear. Like I said before, Denmark uses its own currency. It's the Danish krone. Don't know if sometimes I think it's kroner and then sometimes I think it's krona, but it's Danish and it is the most confusing currency I've ever used to date. Basically, if you wanted to get a beer, that'd probably be 45 Danish krona. So 45. When I got like a chicken Caesar salad, it was 120. So it's really hard in your head to process what that is. But if we say 45 for a beer, that's about £6. And I think about $9 Canadian. And I don't really remember Canadian prices that much anymore, but I'm positive that $9, not for a pint, just $9 for a drink of beer is pretty expensive. So we brought with us about 300 pounds worth of Danish currency, which ended up being like 2,000 and something, which seemed like so much money, but in reality it went very quickly. So we were there for like 3.5 days, and I mean that was enough money, but we played it quite tight and we came home with literally nothing. So just be aware that the food tends to be a bit expensive, the currency is kind of funny. But what we did find is if you have dinner or drinks or whatever, just kind of go away from the tourist areas. So they have this one harbor that, again, I can't really pronounce, that is like the tourist hotspot. So the closer you are to that spot, the more expensive things are. So as long as you like spread out a bit, you should be fine. Just calculate how much money you need depending on how long you're actually going to be there. Next up is transportation. So with the Copenhagen Card, like I said, it includes all public transportation, which I found was incredibly helpful. Even going to and from the airport, this is included. So in some cities, they make you buy like an airport ticket, which tends to be more expensive. But literally, you just use this, you just get on, you just show the driver. I mean, when we went on the train, nobody even asked. So we literally just hopped on and hopped off. So really helpful for transportation. What you can also do is rent a bike. Duh! Similar to Amsterdam, Copenhagen has more bikes than it does cars, which I actually love. I mean, other than the fact that people on bikes will run you down, so just get out of their way. But what I loved is that there's so little traffic, and there's not like people like honking their horns constantly and like just cars everywhere. It feels like there's just so much more space, because there's less cars, but you do have more bikes. So what we found was hotels tend to have their own set of bikes that you can rent, or you can walk like literally 10 steps and you might find a bike rental. Where you get to like closer to the city, there's more and more, but they're really everywhere. It's a great way to see the city. What I also loved, okay, how do I want to say this? Okay, so in Canada, we will have bike lanes infrequently, and they often are very small, and cars tend to like kind of come in the bike lane sometimes, which is why I don't really like biking on the street. I think every time I go, I'm gonna die, so I just don't do it. In Copenhagen, what I saw for the most part is they have a paved bike lane with like a curb. So you have the sidewalk, and then you tend to like drop down a step. Then you have the bike lane, which is really wide. You can get at least 2 bikes beside each other, all nicely paved. And then there would be a step down onto the road. So a car would have to like jump the curb to get in that bike lane. For the most part, it wasn't always like that, but it seemed like a lot of it was, which is really nice. So if you're not really comfortable on the bike, you had that little extra space to maneuver around and hopefully not die. For accommodations, there are hotels and hostels and Airbnbs and all that stuff literally all over the city. You will not struggle to find someplace to stay. We stayed at the Trolle Hotel and Congress Center. It was more expensive than what we normally pay, but we got it on a deal, which is basically how I shop for hotels. Whatever looks decent and is on sale, that's basically where I'm gonna stay. And it worked out nicely that it was about a 12-minute walk from Central Station, which is where all the trains come into, and there's a big bus sort of terminal outside. So from Central Station, walking down was about 12 minutes, and then it was maybe 25 minutes, 20 minutes to get more into the city. But it really felt like nothing because Copenhagen is flat, like straight up flat. So you can walk for a really long time and not kill yourself out, like dead tired. You'll be fine. So even if you end up a bit out of the city, it's okay. Again, with the Copenhagen Card, you could just take public transport in if you need to. The Trolle Hotel that we stayed at, I literally have no complaints. Like, it was clean and everybody was friendly and it had a great view, like this big window that opened up, and I have no complaints. So if you do go, I mean, I recommend it if it's on sale, and for sure as hell don't buy the breakfast because it's way too expensive. And finally, the attractions. There is so much to see in Copenhagen, so I'm going to go really quickly, and I hope that you can come visit the city anyway, so I don't want to like spoil too much. So we're just going to go like bam, 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 real fast through all the attractions. First up is Trolle Gardens, which is like a vintage theme park. With your Copenhagen Card, you can get in free and you can just wander if you want. They've got tons of things to like see and like arcade games you can play, and a whole bunch of like fully sit-down restaurants. But what I would recommend is, so you go to like the entrance place, you give them your Copenhagen Card so you get in free, but then also buy an unlimited rider card so you can go as many rides as you want. Otherwise, you have to pay like per ride, which is a waste of money. It's totally worth it if you're gonna go on at least like 3 rides to pay for the unlimited thing. Just really quickly, they have a wooden roller coaster from like 1917 that I think is only one of 2 in Europe that still has a brakeman. So there's like this staff member that sits in the middle of the train with this huge wooden old-fashioned handbrake. So they control the speed of the roller coaster. It looked like a kiddie roller coaster, but I went on it 4 times and I had so much fun. So I definitely recommend you going. And if you can, what I would do and what we ended up doing was sort of going late afternoon so you see it in the daytime, but then stay until the night and you can see it all lit up. When we went on a Friday, it was open, I think, until midnight, which is insane. So definitely go so you can see both times a day. It was so much fun. What I also always do in any major city is a free walking tour. So in Copenhagen, it's at the top rated on TripAdvisor. I think it's literally just called Copenhagen Free Walking Tour. And you just book your spot, and they run like multiple times throughout the day, and it was fantastic. I know nothing about Danish history or anything like that. So our guide, Magnus, shout out to Magnus, he was so funny. But you actually learn stuff about the city. You learn where things are laid out so you don't get lost. And the guides are also really great for recommendations on what you should do, what you shouldn't do, where you should eat, and all that stuff. And then at the end, you just give a tip. So, I mean, it's not free, but they really work hard for your tip, and it's a fantastic tour. What we also did, and I would recommend, is the Rosenborg Castle, which to me was more like a palace. But it doesn't matter, it was cool. The crown jewels are there as well, and free entry with your Copenhagen card. You just have to wait in line to get tickets. You can't like jump the queue or anything, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, just go early in the day so the lineup's not too long. Get your free ticket or included ticket, whatever, and go spend a couple hours in the castle. It's really pretty, and it's on this beautiful grounds of like little ponds and benches and gardens and stuff. Really pretty. A few minute walk from the castle is Frederick's Church, or they call it the Marble Church. I swear to God, it looks like something from the Vatican. It's this beautiful dome top church. It's really pretty. It's stuck between just regular old buildings, so it really sticks out. And I recommend you going in, popping in. There's not a whole lot inside, but the architecture is really beautiful. Now, when you think of Copenhagen, you probably think of that harbor canal area where the buildings are like tall and flat and different colors, and that's called Nyhaven, something along those lines. Definitely check it out. It's really pretty, and my favorite part was we found a bench along the water. We just sat and people watched and watched the boats go up and down the canal, and it was really just like chill and peaceful. But don't buy anything in this area. The restaurants, the cafes, the like food trucks are all really overpriced because this is the tourist hotspot. So just spend your money elsewhere, but definitely check this place out. Also, very important, they have free toilets, which does not always happen, so check those out while you're there too. Again, with your Copenhagen card, you get a free canal tour. It's out of the lesser known canal, not the main one, but it is nonetheless really great. Wear a coat because it gets a little bit windy out on the water, but you get to see a ton of different stuff. This is also where we saw the Little Mermaid statue, which I would not recommend going to on its own. It's a waste of time. You can see more cool stuff. But on the canal tour, you can see the statue, so it's like two birds, one stone. I saw it, that's enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother going to see the statue. It's not worth it. But the canal tour is worth it, so definitely check it out. Next up, we did the Arsenal Museum, which was really interesting. It had all these really old cannons like on the main floor and like ship guns and stuff. And then upstairs was like this huge open like warehouse almost type building. And it had so much to see. You could literally spend hours there. If you read everything, it's like a little bit overwhelming, but they had tons of like armor and guns and swords and badges and medals and all sorts of stuff. So really cool. Again, free entry with Copenhagen card, and it's got free toilets and free lockers. Really nice. We went there, I think it was like a weekend afternoon, and literally nobody was there. So I definitely recommend it. It was really fun if you're into that sort of type of history. Speaking about museums, there are tons of like natural history and art museums and galleries, but I find that when I go away on a city break, I always end up doing that kind of stuff. So for this trip, I skipped that stuff. I wanted to do things that were a bit different, but just so you know, there are tons of those types of museums. Definitely check out what's included in your Copenhagen card if you do decide to get it, because I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, they have tons of it. Another attraction I can't pronounce, but it's on this little island and it has a big old warehouse and it's full of street food. So I would definitely go there around lunchtime, maybe sort of late lunch to beat the crowds. There's so much food there. I got this incredible pancetta sandwich thing. That was probably the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. And it was about 80 Danish krona. It was 80 Danish money. I'm so sorry. Which is reasonable because it was hella good. And then you can buy drinks, and they have these beach chairs outside, and you can sit by the water and just drink and eat. And they're really comfy chairs. And honest to God, that was like the most moment of bliss, just sitting there, eating, drinking, in the sun, by the water. Absolutely recommend. And last up is the Church of Our Savior. So you can go into the little church area. It's quite minimalistic in types of architecture and stuff, but still very pretty. But what we went for was to climb to the top of the spire. So again, it's free with your Copenhagen card. There was a bit of a queue, and we were waiting in line, and it wasn't moving. So we were like, well, we'll give it 10 minutes. If nothing happens, then we'll just leave, because, you know, it was our last day. We didn't want to waste our time. But honestly, stick it out. It was so worth it. Literally 2 minutes later, the line completely moved and we got in. So I think it's just, you just have to wait it out. But it was definitely worth it. You climb like 400 steps to the top of the spire and this little dinky metal railing. And I swear to God, like, if a big old breeze came, I was going over that railing. It was a little nerve-wracking. But that's also why it's so frequently closed. So the first time we went, it was closed because it was too windy. They'll close it if it's raining. They'll close in any sort of bad weather. So I would go when you think the weather is nice, it's not too windy, and just try your luck. We ended up coming back a second time on our final day. Thank God it was open because it was so awesome. Also, the locals. I think the locals have a really big impact on whether you enjoy your trip into a major city. And for the Danes, oh my goodness, they were so polite and so kind. And it just really helped to make the trip feel nice, you know? Like, our tour guide was saying that about 90% of people in Copenhagen speak English, but obviously they want you to try to speak Danish. I knew no Danish. I realized as we literally touched down, I didn't even know how to say hi or thank you or anything, so maybe I'll do that in a separate video. But it's just really nice that if you do have to speak to someone in English, they understand, and they tend to be quite fluent, and they're just really kind and polite. And also, side note, super beautiful, and they all dressed like absolutely incredible. So overall, the locals were fantastic. And finally, I think I'll do some pros and cons. That's a nice way to sort of finish it up. So with Copenhagen, the pros, it was incredibly clean, like crazy clean for a major city. And I loved that there was so minimal traffic. There weren't a lot of cars. It just felt very open. Everybody was really nice. There's tons to do, but also I think the main thing that I really loved was the whole vibe that the city gives you. It's like, it's very chill and relaxed, and you can just sit and just be. You know, it was just such a nice feeling. I never felt that in a major city. A lot of the times people are like, get out of my way, I'm busy, I'm important, I got places to be. But in this city, it was just very chill, and people, you know, went at their own pace, and I absolutely loved it. The only cons I can think of really is the weather can be kind of funny. I mean, it was August, and I was wearing jeans and my leather jacket, but it was comfortable, so that was really nice. I guess that's not really a con. The only con really then is the currency. I really struggled with, in my mind, like, okay, am I getting ripped off, or is this a good deal? And overall things seem to be a bit expensive, so your money doesn't go that far. That's it. That's really the only negative thing I can think about this city. I'm in love. Would I recommend Copenhagen? I think it's pretty obvious. I would absolutely recommend it. I had such a wonderful time. If you do have the opportunity to go, or you're looking to have a city break, go to Copenhagen. You will not be disappointed. I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe so I can keep making some more. Otherwise, until next time, bye!